Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for another fun episode of Apply That Context. What's going on with that hair? What are you doing? What are you doing there? Why'd you come down? Why don't you want to be with the rest of your friends? Go back up there. That's cool. Sweet. Let's try that again. Doing the work certain YouTubers with a chip on their shoulder don't seem to want to do for the criticisms that they post relentlessly all over the internet. I wonder why. So today's topic revolves around a video that came across my YouTube feed at one point. This guy talks about several different things, his problems with Rey. And each one of his noted issues is a entire video worth of context in of itself. So I'm just going to kind of jump around and just target each one at a time and just make a separate video about each of them. So let's get into the first one that I found probably the most interesting.
But the thing that gets my gears a-grinding is Rey's relationship with the Millennium Falcon. Right off the bat, Rey knows how to fix the Falcon better than Han Solo and Chewbacca.
So repeating what the alleged issue is that this person had. His beef with Rey in this particular moment is the fact that she's able to help fix the Millennium Falcon better than someone like Chewie or Han. I'm verbalizing this so that anyone watching can at least understand that I understand what he's getting at, and that this is somehow a mark against her character because she's showing herself to be so much more knowledgeable at fixing the ship than the guy who owns the ship. Okay. So working through this, just one bit at a time. He mentions Chewie, which out the gate already has me irked because if you look at this scene, who is not in the cockpit at the time? Chewie. So adding the context of what's going on in this moment for why Chewie isn't in the cockpit to help fix things better than Rey ever could, right? After Rey and Finn acquire the Millennium Falcon and Han and Chewie show up reclaiming the Falcon for themselves, they have this run-in with these gang members that they owe a lot of money to. And during the crossfire, Chewie actually gets wounded. So Chewie is in the back with Finn getting bandaged up. Hence why he is not in the cockpit to even be of any kind of assistance at that point in time. Okay, I can probably hear some of you out there going, okay, well that answers for Chewie, but what about Han? How does she one-up Han over his own ship? Again, context rears its ugly head. Because as the movie, and this is not jumping out into any exterior sources, this is just what is present actively in the movie. When Rey and Finn acquire the Millennium Falcon, Han and Chewie are not on board. It's explained when Han and Chewie retake the Falcon later that the Falcon had been stolen from them several times, in fact. And after establishing that bit of context to Rey and Finn, Han explores his ship and goes into the cockpit where he immediately notes something that he states out loud.
Who had it? Duquesne?
I stole it from Uncle Plot. He stole it from the Irving boys who stole it from Duquesne.
Who stole it from me? Well, you tell him that Han Solo just stole back the Millennium Falcon for good. Hey! Some moof milker put a compressor on the ignition line.
Uncle Plot did. I thought it was a mistake too. Puts too much stress on the hyperdrive.
So, spelling out the context for this moment, new parts have been added to the Falcon since Han lost it, since it was stolen from him. Parts that were not original to the ship. Parts that he's not accustomed to, not used to. Hence why, when we fast forward into the movie, when they're escaping from the mercenaries and gang members that are out to get them, Rey immediately jumps into the co-pilot seat, to which Han says,
Hey, where are you going?
Uncle Plot installed a fuel pump too. If we don't prime that, we're not going anywhere.
I hate that guy.
And you could use a co-pilot?
I got one. He's back there. Come on, baby. Don't let me down.
Compressor.
So applying context for what's being stated in this scene, once again, they are stating in this movie that there are new parts added to the Falcon that Han is not used to that will affect the performance of the ship. Parts that Rey seems to have an inside knowledge of. And even when Han gets ready to power up the ship to blast off in the lightspeed and escape the bad guys, The ship makes this power down noise, to which Rey then points out the compressor. She is reminding him of a part that again was added to his ship against his will because it was stolen, a part that he is not used to that is affecting the performance of his ship. Then we fast forward to the dreaded moment when Rey bypasses the compressor. Now originally Han points out something that Rey immediately jumps to try and fix. They both agree on this set course of actions while Han is busy dealing with the controls in front of him. So as far as we know, what Han is currently doing in his seat is important. He's working with the controls, trying to keep the ship stable. Rey is taking the initiative to help Han in this moment and fixing what Han calls out as an issue. But then she takes the initiative to pull a part that bypasses the compressor, the part that was affecting the ship's performance.
Electrical overload.
I can fix that.
Coolant's leaking.
Try transferring auxiliary power to secondary tank.
I got it. This hyperdrive blows are gonna be pieces of us in 3 different systems. What'd you do?
I bypassed the compressor.
Huh.
And you know, what I find so interesting about this is, in my previous video discussing this meme someone of incredible bad faith had made to denigrate Rey's capabilities and downplay her abilities. What I found most striking is that even in that meme, it talks about how Rey has experience pulling parts off of rundown ships or out-of-date ships, right? But it's so much more than that, really, because so much of Star Wars is about what is inferred rather than what is actively shown. You know, you see Luke with a rifle, and you just immediately assume, oh, he's gotten some kind of gunsmanship shooting training. Oh, we see him slightly tinkering with R2, or he talks about parts he has to get, and we immediately assume, oh, he has to have some kind of mechanics know-how, right? Meanwhile, with Rey, she's established to have spent her entire life on this planet scavenging for parts, taking parts off of ships, showing she has an in-depth knowledge of parts and their workings, which, by that same metric that we hold for Luke, would establish the same kind of connection with mechanics and ship parts and how they work and how they function. And it's almost as if the movie is going out of its way to establish all this 10 times over for Rey over Luke, to not step on anyone's toes. And yet, there are still people like this who will make videos screaming about their toe getting stepped on. Now, perhaps I'm the one being too ungenerous for this individual. Perhaps he just watched the movie once and forgot all these details, but still went to the trouble of making a video complaining about something that he barely remembers, you know, like an idiot. Or I would assume someone who makes a video that's complaining about something and even adds the footage of the scenes that he's talking about, that he's complaining about, would be rewatching that scene, basically double checking his facts. If they were engaging this in good faith, they would go, oh, actually, the movie goes blatantly out of its way to explain how Rey is able to help the Falcon better than Han or Chewie. Because Chewie is not in the fucking cockpit when this issue is happening, and Han is not used to the parts that were added to his ship against his will because it was stolen, parts that Rey just so happens to have an inside knowledge of, and just simply bypasses them by pulling a part off of a historically out-of-date ship. So really, what Rey actually accomplishes just really isn't all that impressive in the grand scheme of things. But, you know, once again, I'm left to question this person's motives as to why they would come to these kind of conclusions and why they would think this was a problem. And all of my conclusions that I can come to are not really flattering. Either they watched the movie and just forgot these details, before making a complaint about it, in which case their opinion, their criticism should not be taken seriously. They either did not watch the movie and they are just making shit up for clicks, in which case their criticism should not be taken seriously, or they did watch the movie, see those facts, see those elements, and still go, not good enough, even though that blatantly answers my issues, in which case they're just a liar and their criticism should not be taken seriously. So for the creator of this video, if this happens to come across you in any way, shape, or form, I leave that ballpark up to you. I'm not going to call you a liar.
I ain't calling you a truther.
But which is it? You either didn't watch the movie and didn't remember it, or you're making shit up. So you tell me. And here's the thing. Nothing I've talked about in defense of these scenes, in defense of this movie, is me trying to tell you that just because I can answer the questions for these scenes, answer the criticisms of these scenes, that makes these movies any good. Now, of course, some of you might ask, well, if it doesn't make the movies good, why are you defending them? Simple. Because it's not true. The criticisms are not valid. Would you not rather have someone articulate valid reasons for why they dislike a movie that are real instead of fabricated? I have no problem with someone disliking these movies for valid reasons. But when someone says that they hate a movie for a set of reasons, and the facts dictate that those reasons don't logically add up, I'm left to question what their actual motives are. I have no problem with someone disliking these films for valid reasons, and those valid reasons absolutely exist. And that's coming from someone who, spoiler alert, actually enjoys these films. So why, out of my entire YouTube career, talking about all of these channels that I've ever discussed, every single one of them, coincidentally, are just neglecting the facts, the nuance, the reality, the context of what actually happens in these films to justify their outrage? Or is it because there's ulterior motives for why they hate these films, but they can't say it out loud without sounding like the bad guy? And you know what I find funniest about all this kind of stuff is that I've been doing this for a long time, and I'll make videos like this, and the best retort I've ever gotten from people is just, why are you defending this? Why are you trying to defend this stupid movie? Stop trying to make excuses for this bad movie. How about you try and convince me what's actually wrong? How about you just create a better criticism, a valid criticism? And to show what I mean, just a little homework for some of you out there. Because people seem to not be able to articulate what's actually wrong without devolving into hyper exaggerations and just insults that don't mean anything. So allow me to give you my type of good faith and articulated problem that is in Star Wars. I'm not going to hyperinflate or exaggerate or do anything that all these countless other YouTubers that I've ever dealt with have done in the past. And the homework for you is to just give me an answer in the comments below. Something that is valid, something that is articulate any points that I've missed for this next segment, okay? And I'll use the easiest punching bag that I can think of, which is Jar Jar Binks. Now, before I go any further, let me just say, this is in no way a mark against Ahmed Best as an actor. George Lucas wanted a cartoon character in his movie, and Ahmed Best gave him that character to an absolute T. Just because I find there's a problem with that character's place in the story is not a mark against Ahmed Best's talent as an actor, or really that much of a criticism of the character itself, because how the character is portrayed perfectly for what George Lucas wanted, for better or for worse. What I'm getting at, though, is that structurally, how the story is affected by this character's presence and the character's involvement in the story and the things that happen around that character are not good. And I just want to emphasize that this is not a mark against Ahmed Best in any way. It's not his fault. He is a very talented actor, and the way he portrayed his character was actually very good. I just don't like these certain elements in the story. But I digress. Let's move forward. Throughout the Phantom Menace, when they introduced Jar Jar, his character is depicted as this cowardly, let's not even use the word cowardly. This is a character that has a deep aversion to violence and is easily scared. On top of that, he establishes that he is also so clumsy, such a burden on his society, that they kicked him out And that character of Jar Jar does not change throughout the entirety of the course of that first movie until they get to the very end, where the good guys are rounding up a fighting force to take back Naboo from the Trade Federation, and Boss Nass goes to Jar Jar and says, "You're general now." Why? For what purpose? By what logic? By what reasoning? Jar Jar is not established to have any kind of combat skills. He's shown no intellect for command over soldiers. All the factors, all the things, all the mentality that a general of an army would need to organize and deploy his troops effectively. And he's just given the highest rank of the Gungan army because reasons. Because George, I guess, thought it'd be funny. Now, comparatively, there is actually an example in the story of Star Wars of a character that is depicted as cowardly who eventually does become the general of an army. And it's actually done well. And that's with Finn from the sequel trilogy, where Finn starts as a coward looking to run away from the First Order, but through his experiences with Finn and Poe, showing him friendship, showing him kindness, showing him respect, he learns there are things worth fighting for, people worth fighting for, the people he cares about. By the Last Jedi, through his journey with Rose, he learns that there are people that he doesn't know personally that he should still stand up for, that he should fight for. And through that journey, he becomes a person that's only willing to save the people that he cares about, to someone who is willing to sacrifice himself for other people, people that he doesn't even know. And then by the end of that journey, when you get to the Rise of Skywalker, he is made general of the Resistance, and he helps lead the charge against the people he was looking to run away from at the start of his story. And that is done pretty well. Even if the whole him becoming general thing was kind of done in a bit of a meh joke, but... And that will be your homework. If you found anything wrong with what I had to say with Jar Jar's situation and his play out in the story, I believe I summarized it very fairly. But if you think I'm wrong, by all means, explain the context that I've missed in the comments below. And that ends today's discussion. Pencils down. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you want to see more of me talking about this kind of stuff, please like and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. See you.